Hi friends, it's Becky, and I had an idea when I first opened up my Adornable Elements November 2024 subscription, and I got in my rotating subscription the Hot and Trendy beads here, which consisted of a lot of different cool beads, some check glass beads, some 3-hole beads, and I immediately had an idea while I was unboxing it, I didn't act on it then, of putting together these bridge beads and these bow tie beads that both came in them. They are 3-hole beads, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and they kind of fit together perfectly. And so I wanted to use these and also these 4mm druks that came in the same Hot and Trendy subscription, and just make a really quick bracelet just like this. And I'm also going to be supplementing with some 11 seed beads. These are the gray luster seed beads that came in my seed bead subscription, as well as a little 2-segment box clasp. This one came in one of my previous findings packs. That was an add-on subscription for that. So I'm going to do this real quick with y'all. This is my late night beading, and I've got a wingspan of 6-pound Fireline that I'm going to be using. I've got it on a size 12 beading needle, and I'm going to just start with one of these druk beads. And I've got these all lined up the way that I want them to go. Before I even lined them up though, I just used my needle to make sure that each of these holes was clear. And I really recommend doing that when you've got these beads that have multiple holes. Let me get this druk on here. So I just went through with my beading needle. I'm going to pull this close to the end. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail. And then I'm going to go back through this bead with my needle in order to make it into a stop bead, but it'll also be integrated as part of the design, so I'm not going to need to remove it later. And I just have that little loop of thread holding it while I go through. Now I already lined these up, so let's see how they do. But I'm going to go into the side of these beads that's next to the druk is going to be the concave side, or the inner curve of the bridge bead. I'm going to pick up an 11-0, go into the middle hole of my bow tie bead, pick up an 11-0, and go through the outer curve, or the convex side of the bridge bead, and then pick up another druk. So I am going to repeat this all the way down until I've picked up all of these ones that I've laid out. And then once they're all laid out, I will come back and I will show you how we're going to turn the thread around and work back the other way, because we're going to need to go through all 3 holes. So we're going down the center, we'll come back and do a second pass through one side, and then a second pass through the other side, and as we turn around, we'll begin attaching them to the clasps. So I'll meet you back here after I have strung just on the center hole in this same order with these beads. Alright, so I have about 9 bow tie beads on here, and they're bracketed with the bridge beads, and then we've got between them either these druks or the 11 seed beads in between them. And this is just sort of mirroring the beginning of it, but I'm going to add a little bit extra here. I'm going to do 1 more bridge bead, and then I'm going to pick up 3 11 seed beads coming out of that center. And then I'm going to go through one of the loops, one of these little rings here, on this box clasp, and I've separated out both halves of the box clasp. I have this other half to do over here, and I'm going to leave it in this orientation so I can make sure that they are facing the correct way. But after I go through that ring, I'm going to pick up another 3 seed beads. 1, 2, 3. And this part is going to be a little bit wobbly because I'm going to go along this top row, and I'm just going to go through the top hole on this bridge bead. Where are you, friend? There it is. And I may need to pick this up in a little bit to work through it later after I do that, but that's gonna do a little connection to that part there. Spoiler, we're going to do it the same thing on the other side too. But now I can pick up an 11/0 seed bead and go through the next top row hole. And I'm going to be adding an 11/0 between each bead all the way back down to the other side. Between each bead that I go through. I'm just kind of adding a couple. As I go. But it might be easier to just stop and go through each one individually. Like this. So if I go pick one up, go through that one, it's a little bit loose, that's okay. It will eventually tighten up. Actually, yeah, because I'm going to be reinforcing this again when I go through the other side. But for right now, it's going to be a little bit on the loose side. And just go add that 11/0 all the way down that side. If you need to, give it a little bit of a tug to straighten out or tighten up both the center row as well as this one, because there's nothing stopping that thread from going through except for that stop bead. But yeah, I'm going to add a single 11/0 between each of these ends. And when I get down here to the other side, we'll show you how to attach the second clasp, and we'll maybe do a little bit of reinforcing there. Alright, so here I am. I have finished going through this entire top section and placing an 11/0 seed bead between each of my 3-hole beads, going through this top. If I'm holding it, this is the top and that's the bottom of the hole. And now I'm going to be in exactly the same position as I was here, where I need to add another bridge bead. So I'm going to go through that 3rd hole, or top hole if it's facing that direction. Just move this tail thread out of the way a little bit. Oh, you know what I did? I forgot to put my little 11/0 between those two, so I'm just going to back up and add that. There we go. Because it was between each of these, the outer holes on the 3-hole beads. Okay, I want it to face that correct way. So I'm just going to have it go through here this way. There we go. It's very easy for these threads to start getting tangled When they're on the long side, it's going to get shorter though pretty soon, before you know it. And now I want to connect the clasp on here. So I'm going to pick up, just like I did the other side, 1, 2, 3 11-0 seed beads. And I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction, so this will be oriented the same way this one is. So I'm going to want to go through that direction with this loop. Like that. Move this so it's closer to the center. And then pick up 3 more seed beads. 1, 2, 3. And go right here into the center, into this druk. And I'm going to come out of this second bridge bead right there. All right, now I'm going to be reinforcing this connection here on this side. I did not reinforce it on this first side because we'll do that again after I move my thread back up here on the other way. So I'm coming out of this bridge bead here in the center hole. I'm going to jump over here to the hole on the end that I just went through and added all of these 11-0s, and go back this way. It's making a little bit of a circle. It's time for me to reinforce this little loop here, going through these 11-0 seed beads and that ring, and then through these 11-0 seed beads. All right. You know what? I think, yep, that's going to be good. Because I'm going to go back through this center strand, the center hole on all of these beads one more time to go back here to the other side. This is just going to reinforce the entire bracelet a little bit more. To do that, it'll make it firmier. And once I've got this thread all the way here on this end, we're going to attach the second ring and go back down. So I'll meet you right back there for that. All right, so here we are. We've gone through the center. The thread is now coming out of this end next to these beads. I'm going to reinforce this loop first, and then I'm going to make a second loop and reinforce that, and then go back down the other way. So coming out of this bridge bead, I'm going to go through these 3 11-0s and the ring, and then the next 3 11-0s. I'm going to ignore my life falling apart behind me. I could probably just go ahead and skip right here from one hole to the next on this end without having to go through the rest of the way. Like that. It's pretty reinforcey. And let's do the same thing that we did before, where we pick up our 3 11-0s, and then we'll go through the loop on the second loop on this clasp, and then we'll grab 3 more 11-0s. 1, 2, 3. Go through this second hole, or this third hole, I guess, the one that doesn't have any thread going through it yet, on the bridge bead. And I'm just going to do another little loop around here. Go back through that center bead and those 3 11-ohs. And go through this ring, those 3 11-ohs, and the bridge bead. Oh, hey friend. There we go. And now I just need to fill in all of these little spaces with an 11-oh on this side. So I'm going to be doing that, just traveling my way down here. Popping a little 11-oh here on each end as I make my way down to the other end of this bracelet. And I'll meet you here. Alright, so here we are, and I have it all the way to the end. I have not attached it to the second loop. I'm going to be doing basically the same thing on this side though. I'm going to pick up my 3 11-ohs. Focus. Put it through my little loop here, this ring on the second loop of this clasp. See, I was coming out of that bottom row of holes, and then pick up 3 11-ohs again, and go through this center hole, this bridge bead. Oof, hold on, that thread just wrapped itself around the clasp. There we go. I'm just trying to keep that tail thread out of the way. And I'm just going to give this a little bit of a tug. Just a little bit of one to tighten that up. Then I'm going to jump over here back to that third hole and go back through those same 3 11-ohs because I want to reinforce this. The loop and those 3 11-ohs. And then go back through, where's that at? That middle hole on the bridge bead and this druk. I'm just going to scooch over here to the back side because I've met up with my tail thread. Oh, I thought I was. Actually, let's back up then. Let's go back through there. There we go. That's perfect. And that way I can tie myself a little square knot and burn down my thread. Just going to go over and under, and then over and under twice for the second pass, because your surgeon's knot, not square knot. Now that I've got my little knot tied, now I can go back through just a couple of beads to move my tail thread further away from the knot itself. I'm going to burn off my thread. If I can find my thread burner, there it is. There we go. So this is a pretty simple little bracelet. It's just basically running the beading wire through all 3 holes in the same order, going in and out and around, except where we were reinforcing our connections to the clasp. But now we've got a nice little bangle. It was pretty quick to make using the beads from the Adornable Elements Beads of the Month Club for November, and this was the Hot and Trendy beads. Alright, I'm going to leave a link in the description to Adornable Elements, to all of their different bead subscriptions. I subscribe to the seed bead subscription, the 2-hole bead subscription, and the rotating Beads of the Month subscription, and my rotating Beads of the Month this month were these Hot and Trendies. So I got some check glass beads, and I got some 3-hole beads, and just some really fun and interesting beads to play around with. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And I will talk with you later. Happy beading.